Welcome to a Healthy Push podcast. I'm Shannon Jackson, former anxiety sufferer turned adventure, mom, and anxiety recovery coach. I struggled with anxiety, panic disorder, and agoraphobia for 15 years. And now I help people to push past the stuff that I used to struggle with. Each week, I'll be sharing real and honest conversations along with actionable and practical steps that you can take to help you push past your anxious thoughts, the symptoms, panic, and fears. Welcome. You're right where you're meant to be. All right, if you experience lots of anxiety during or after exercise, or if you're avoiding exercise altogether, this episode is going to be super helpful for you. So let's just start with what exercise anxiety can look like. So it typically looks something like this. You begin to exercise, you start to feel very normal sensations and symptoms like your heart racing or feeling short of breath, and you quickly become alarmed by the sensations and symptoms. You maybe start thinking about how you feel and what the feelings could lead to, and then before you know it, you are having a ton of feelings, a ton of thoughts, and you've stopped exercising altogether because you've convinced yourself that what you're experiencing is really bad and dangerous, or it's going to lead to something really bad or dangerous. Or maybe for you, the anxiety you experience with exercise comes after you exercise. You might finish exercising and feel fatigued or tired, sore, in pain or discomfort, and this triggers lots of thoughts and maybe even more feelings that have you convinced there's something wrong and that what you're feeling is dangerous or it's more than, quote, just anxiety. Or maybe for you, you aren't exercising at all because you don't want to feel any of the discomfort. Or maybe for you, it's because it's really hard to get to a gym or to get outside and exercise by yourself or even with others. So I want to dive into all of it, and I want to share a lot of helpful things with you. And I want to start off with a really big, important truth. And it's that exercise does not cause anxiety. And you might be like, wrong, Shannon, it does. And trust me, I get it. But here's the truth. Exercise is simply mimicking feelings that are very similar to those you feel with anxiety and panic, like racing heart, shortness of breath, dizziness, pain, discomfort. And because you're all too familiar with these sensations and symptoms, when you feel them, your automatic response is, nope, get me away from these feelings. Even though they're natural and normal for your body to be experiencing, your response is, I know what this is. This feels just like how I feel when I'm anxious. And so you try to push away the feelings. You try to get rid of them. You try to make them stop. You try not to panic. And all of this creates even more anxiety. So I won't go into this too much, but I just want to mention here, right? Caffeine is a stimulant. So sure, it might lead to more feelings. But when you're struggling with an anxiety disorder, because you're so used to being hypersensitive to your feelings, when you start to feel very normal sensations and even symptoms like your heart rate increasing, feeling a bit jittery, you can tend to feel like, oh gosh, I know what this is. This is going to lead to anxiety or a panic attack. And so you want to stop it, get rid of it, push it away, right? So very similar to exercise. So simply what I'm trying to say is exercise doesn't cause anxiety, and it's not the problem. And this is a really helpful thing to recognize. The big problem, or at least a big problem, I should say, because it's not all of it, is how you're responding to your thoughts, the sensations, the symptoms when it comes to anxiety, when it comes to exercise. I know I talk a lot about the response, but it's because it's so freaking important. So we'll talk more about that in a bit, but I want to chat real quick about something that you might already know, but it's really important to chat about. And I'm not going to get too sciencey with you because it's really not necessary, but it's important to know. So exercise stimulates the sympathetic nervous system, which is the same system that is stimulated when you feel anxious. And when our sympathetic nervous system is stimulated, our heart rate naturally begins to increase, our blood flow increases, our lungs take in more oxygen, which causes our breathing to become faster and deeper. These are just some highlights, right? There's lots more physiologically that occurs in your body, but these are some big ones to be aware of. And these things are happening very naturally, and your body is doing exactly what it's designed to do. But when you struggle with disordered anxiety and panic, you can very easily and quickly interpret these things as being problematic or even dangerous, because you're probably very accustomed to feeling them because you're very sensitized to what's going on in your body and your thoughts and your feelings. So this all flows nicely into the next thing that I want to chat about. And I know that this might sound really silly and basic, but it's really helpful to just start with the acknowledgement that the sensations that you're experiencing when you exercise are natural, and it makes sense to be experiencing them. It's truly your body doing what it's designed to do, and it's taking care of you. And like a lot of things with anxiety recovery, what's really helpful is to practice slowing down and having a healthier response to what you're feeling in your body. So whether you experience sensations, symptoms, or discomfort during or after exercise, it's helpful to acknowledge what you're feeling while resisting trying to make it stop. And I know that this is really hard. This is why anxiety recovery is really hard, is because you're so used to being in tune with what's going on with your body, being on high alert, being sensitized to your feelings. And it's really hard to slow things down and to acknowledge, okay, it maybe makes sense to feel this way, and to allow yourself to actually feel it. So when you're exercising, and I will argue even when you're anxious, you don't need to slow your heart rate down. You don't need to try to get your breathing back to, quote, normal. And a quick side note, right? It is normal for your breathing to be quicker and deeper when you're exercising. You also don't need to find a way to support your weak or wobbly legs. They are still very strong and capable of supporting you. You don't need to do anything to help your body. Like, your body will do its job, and you need to step away and let it do its thing, because it's very good at doing what it's designed to do, especially without your help. And this is all true too for how you feel after you exercise. Simply acknowledging that it makes sense that you feel tired or sore or in pain or a bit uncomfortable, and practicing allowing yourself to be with those feelings rather than trying to make them go away or make yourself feel better. And yeah, this is really hard work, right? This is why anxiety recovery is really hard, is slowing down and making space and letting yourself feel, because you're so used to probably doing the opposite. So be gentle with yourself, right? But I want to jump into some more tips that I think will be really helpful for you. And this first one might be a bit hard to hear. You might feel called out, and you might feel like, oh my gosh, I just want to roll my eyes. But it's really important, and I want to talk about it. So if you're somebody who finds yourself often obsessing and checking your heart rate, please do yourself a favor and ditch the fitness watch and stop checking your heart rate. Of course, unless you monitor it for a condition like POTS or a condition that warrants you checking it, but that's not who I'm talking to here. So you're monitoring your heart rate, right? Because you're wanting to make sure that you're okay and that you're going to be okay and that it's not too high, and you think that it's helpful information. But here's the thing. Knowing what your heart rate is while you're exercising just isn't valuable information. And this is true too for when you're anxious. It's not valuable information, and it will only increase feelings of anxiety. I know that this is easier said than done, but checking and keeping track of your heart rate is only going to keep you feeling anxious. And I'm not saying, ditch the watch altogether. If you like to count your steps, cool, that's fine, but remove the heart rate monitor from it, because it is just not helpful. Remember when I said your body is doing what it's designed to do? There are two parts of this when it comes to your heart rate. One, of course, your heart rate is going to be high when you're exercising. I hope it is. Otherwise, you might have some problems. And two, of course, your heart rate is high when you check it because you're feeling anxious. I know it's hard, but when you get caught in this loop of I've got to check my heart rate to make sure it's okay, you're typically feeling anxious. And so it's going to be high. And then when you see it's high, it just causes you to spiral. So if this is you, I would really encourage ditch the watch, ditch the heart rate monitor. I wear a fitness watch when I'm exercising. I often wear it when I'm hiking, biking, skiing, and I do this to keep track of steps and just to look at my stats. And sometimes I'll see, my heart rate's in the 160s, 170s. And what does this tell me? Well, it tells me that my heart really kicked some butt and that it did its job and that I can be miles and miles on a mountain and my heart rate can be incredibly high and I can feel short of breath and I can feel fatigued. And it all makes sense because my body's doing what it's designed to do. And my body is incredibly strong and incredibly powerful. And honestly, I don't ever check my heart rate. I noticed it because my husband and I were hiking once and he said, wow, my heart rate is blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, interesting. I never looked at that. And mine was really high too, which made sense. We were on a really steep incline going for quite a while. But, it's really just acknowledging my body is doing what it's designed to do. Of course, my heart rate is high. That makes sense. Okay, so this next one I really want to chat about. When you're feeling all the things, a racing heart, palpitations, dizziness, shortness of breath, weakness, I can go on and on and on. Don't try to talk logic into your brain and try to force yourself to calm down. And what I mean by this is saying things like, I'm fine. I know that this can't hurt me. I know I'm not going to have a heart attack. I know I'm not going to die. I'm okay. Because I'm sure you've come to see this. No amount of logic you try to talk into yourself and your brain is going to be enough and actually calm you down. And what this does really is it just invalidates what you're feeling, what you're experiencing, and you often just beat yourself up about it. So instead, really try to validate what you're feeling. Actually let yourself be with the feelings. You can say something like this to yourself. I'm feeling really anxious and dang, this sucks. I'm really scared, but what I'm feeling isn't dangerous. I'm going to work through this. I've always worked through this. And then do your best to get back to what you're doing, like walking, lifting, etc. But it's also okay if you feel like you need a break. You can take a break. You can slow down. You can sit down. You can lay down. You can put your feet up. You can just pause. And maybe you decide, okay, I'm done for now. And that's okay too. You can let yourself be done without trying to force or pressure yourself to finish the workout. Gentleness and compassion goes a long way in the recovery journey. But yeah, less trying to talk logic into the sensations, the symptoms, into your brain, trying to just, tell yourself, I'm fine, I'm not going to have a heart attack. You're not going to talk that logic in, especially if you're feeling anxious. So just validating, making space. And I know sometimes when you're hit with the sensations and symptoms, you might think, oh God, what if this isn't just from exercising and there's actually something wrong? What if I actually need to do something? What if there's something wrong? And I want you to really listen to that statement. What if this isn't just anxiety and there's something wrong? That sounds like anxiety, right? You know what anxiety sounds like. You know what it feels like. You know how it shows up. You know what it tries to convince you of. It's loud, it's repetitive, the feelings, right? It says the same things over and over. So taking this thought, right, and saying, I'm anxious, it's okay. We don't need to figure anything out. And do your best to get back to what you were doing. But I really want to encourage, right? You know what anxiety feels like. You know what it sounds like. But if ever you feel like, okay, this does feel really off, this does feel really weird, it's okay. Pause, take a break. Stop exercising. You can listen to yourself, and it's really important that you listen to yourself. Like I said, you can take a break, you can slow down, but usually when we're having that thought and we're going back and forth, is it from exercise? Is there actually something wrong? That's anxiety, right? And it sounds a lot like anxiety. And it would be really helpful just to call out, okay, hey, I'm feeling anxious. It's okay. And I have to mention here, in episode 78 of the podcast, I chat a lot more in depth about some symptoms like dizziness, palpitations, even depersonalization. So if you're wanting more helpful tips and insights on navigating these things, definitely check out that episode. Okay, so the next one is you don't need to do crazy workout routines to exercise. Like if exercising is really hard for you right now because you're really scared of the feelings, it's okay. Let's just walk or try doing some light exercise, maybe yoga or light lifting or stretching, Pilates or yard work. Like there's always a way to do things in small ways and manageably and in ways that feel good for you. And starting small can help you to practice tolerating feelings of discomfort so that you can slowly increase the type of exercise that you're doing if you want to. But in general, right, exercise doesn't have to look like you exacerbating yourself beyond what feels good for you. It doesn't have to look like you running or lifting heavy weights or doing any crazy stuff. Exercise is supposed to be and feel good and supportive and helpful for your system. So if it doesn't feel good and helpful and supportive, like don't force yourself to do stuff that feels like garbage. And another helpful thing, if exercise is really hard for you right now, especially doing it alone, find a partner to do it with. Like ask a friend, a loved one, somebody to move with you. This can be another really helpful step to getting you back to movement and exercise. And you're not always going to need this, right? But if initially you need some support to get to a place where you can build some trust with you and your body again, and you won't feel like you need somebody, like take that support, ask for that support. If you feel like you need it right now, allow yourself to take it, and that will be really helpful. Okay, and another thing that I want to add is to listen to you and your body. If exercise feels really hard and nearly impossible right now, it can be because your system actually needs to slow things down. It can be that you've been incredibly activated, incredibly dysregulated for a while, and your system needs to learn how to be in stillness more, and it needs support in becoming regulated. So maybe let's just focus on walking, not even with the intention of exercise, right? But just walking, especially in nature, can be incredibly helpful. Doing some yoga or just things to support your nervous system, like drinking more water, eating more nourishing meals, reducing your caffeine and alcohol intake, meditating, breathing exercises. Like, I don't want you to go crazy with all this because it's not necessary. Like, pick one thing and just be consistent with it. But sometimes our nervous system just needs to be supported on a consistent basis so that it actually has the capacity to do some other things like exercising. And of course, I have to say this here. It's really important that you're always eating regular, balanced, nourishing meals, like not skipping meals, especially breakfast, drinking lots of water, not pushing yourself and working out beyond your capacity when you feel depleted and unwell or sick, or when you're about to start your period or you're bleeding. These are just really important things to keep in mind because sometimes we just push ourselves, but we don't give our bodies what it needs to be able to do that work. So making sure that you're doing the simple things to support your system so exercising is actually helpful and feels good and does what it's designed to do. So in general, I know exercising, facing anxiety, right? It really exercising comes down to facing uncomfortable feelings, really allowing yourself to face anxiety. And it is tricky and it's hard, but there are so many benefits to exercising, and the benefits will actually help you to heal and recover. Like exercise is a great way to practice mindfulness, and it's a great way to practice tolerating discomfort, and it's a great way to relieve stress and anxiety. So although it might be hard, I promise you will get so many benefits out of it. So if you're currently struggling with exercise because of anxiety, I just want you to hear me. Like, you are so much stronger and more capable than you think you are. And you can absolutely handle all the feelings because after all, you always have. But make sure to take things small and do things in a manageable way, in a way that feels good for you. And I have to mention here that I have a new masterclass, and it's all on what if thoughts. And if you struggle with anxiety and exercise, you likely struggle with lots of what if thoughts. Like, what if I panic? What if I pass out? What if something really bad happens? What if this isn't just anxiety? So I encourage, if you struggle a lot with what if thoughts, this class will be so helpful for you. It's 90 minutes, and I teach you how to approach your thoughts and feelings in a healthy and very practical way so that they stop showing up and causing all of the chaos. And you can actually put that trust back within you and your body. So I'll put that link in the show notes for you if you're interested. Okay, until next time, my friend, keep taking healthy action. I hope you enjoyed this episode of A Healthy Push. If you want more, head on over to ahealthypush.com for the show notes and lots more tips, tools, and inspiration that will support your recovery. And if you're hoping for me to cover a certain topic, be sure to join my Instagram community at A Healthy Push and let me know in the comments what you want to hear next.